So, Mr. Ferguson, Mr. Bradford Ferguson, I spend a huge amount of time doing research. I bet you're not shocked.
Oh,
And
okay.
in order for this show to be of any value to anybody, I have to dig really, really deep.
Hmm.
And over the last several days, maybe just this week, I've noticed articles from mainstream media that are not negative on Tesla. Forbes, Reuters, with nice balanced articles. Yeah, a little negative, but positive too, and kind of balanced. And I'm kind of shocked by that. And then I started noticing that there was all these, what did you call them a few minutes ago? These reports that come out.
The
Um,
13F reports the holdings of institutions.
right, the institutional holdings and some headlines coming out about these holdings, and they're overwhelmingly BlackRock, others adding shares of Tesla. Uh,
Hmm.
I asked Grok put together a list, says Vanguard and State Street continued adding Tesla shares in recent updates, with users noting the big dogs are buying. And then
Hmm.
JP Morgan increased its position by 17%, 46 million shares in quarter two, signaling a strong belief in Tesla's ever brighter tech future. So then I've been noticing that all week. And then all of a sudden today, Tesla Boomer Mama and others are doing spaces right now called The Street is Finally Going
Getting it.
All In on Tesla. So
Mhm.
what do you think?
Unfortunately, it's a lot of hype. Uh,
Okay.
so Vanguard and State Street, they have the largest ETFs in the world. And I'm guessing the one that runs the triple Q had big inflows in the Tesla. So when people buy those ETFs, when they get paid and they in their 401k, they might put money in a S&P 500 fund or a large growth fund, um, or when they just go out and buy them in other accounts because they're feeling good about the economy. Then what those funds have to do is buy all the stocks that are in the ETF at whatever ratio they need to
Right.
buy them. So that's one explanation for some of the big dogs
Yes.
buying Tesla. Um, but like if you look at JP Morgan, I'd almost think that's a direct result of Adam Jonas having that video about Tesla and Optimus and FSD,
Yes.
really fancy 22-minute video or something like that.
It was.
So
I even did a whole program around that video
yeah.
to add some context because it was so poorly written. But yes, it was a lovely video.
It was written to be exciting and
Yeah.
to keep people engaged for sure. But if you look at smaller firms, sometimes what looks like these firms are buying Tesla, what it could be is they added clients who already own Tesla.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So, for example, our clients have, I think it's over 130 million in Tesla shares.
Hmm.
It's over 400,000. And as far as number of shares, but the over the last couple days, we just added um, last week we added 30,000 shares, and this week we added another 30,000 shares. So we're getting a ton of interest from people who want us to manage cover calls for them or add, trimming and adding to take advantage of the ups and downs.
Right.
But we didn't buy 60,000 shares last 2 weeks. So our clients don't quite have that extra cash laying around.
Oh no, I thought you bought 60,000.
Not quite.
All right. So all right. So
But I think I'm guessing there's an incremental, but it's not as like some tsunami, or like I don't think it's the dam is breaking finally for awareness around Tesla or people getting it as a stock.
Okay. All right. So you're not going to buy into this particular round of hype.
Mhm.
But we did, of course, also
But I
break.
do have good news.
Oh, you do.
Yeah, not
Tell
I'll
me,
save
tell me.
it for later though.
Oh, you'll save it for later. Okay, that's good. I like that.
All right.
That makes people watch longer. This is a good thing. All right. So, at the same time, now you're getting these folks in that are using Rebellionaire in order to manage their portfolio, that at least some of their portfolio. And then you now make these decisions. How has that, you've talked about it in the past where some weeks you do covered calls, other weeks you don't.
Right.
We've just broken through a big resistance area. And now people are saying, it's off to the races, although we've now had a few days of consolidation. How are you thinking about what you do right now?
Yeah, so we want to avoid the really bad weeks, which for cover calls would be if Tesla like suddenly teleported higher 20% or more in 1 week.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think Tesla, what we heard from Ford and seen from other companies, I don't think Tesla is going to um, license out FSD before year end.
No,
So I think that's one fear you would have. And like if it happened, the stock might be up like 35%.
right.
Um, that it might be. People would get pretty excited if that happens, especially if it's a really big automaker like BYD or Toyota or something like that, or
Right.
Volkswagen.
Right.
Um, we might be careful around earnings or production and delivery. Um, Elon's really excited about version 14. So I'm just kind of taking you through our thought
Sure.
process.
Sure.
He's really excited about that version. He's saying it's going to come out by the end of September. So figuring it maybe the last week of September, we might be a little anxious about writing cover calls around the time that version 14 comes out. Because I think there's a potential that they're going to get rid of all the common disengagements that happen.
Okay. All right.
So they already fixed one of them. There's basically like six things left,
Okay.
and one of the six they already fixed. So what would happen is this is with version 13. Your car be in a rainstorm, and the rain picks up into a downpour, and the wipers would just stay on one,
Oh,
and the car would panic because it can't see. It wouldn't automatically shift the wipers up to four and then bail on you. Um, but we've seen Teslas in Austin in downpours in a robotaxi.
hmm.
Unfortunately, I didn't get to see that. But we've seen it captured several times, and it's doing the wipers fast. It's just totally fine with all the rain. So they already fixed that for Austin, and I think they're aware of the other common
Sure.
mistakes that it's making right now.
Sure. Sure. Of course they are.
I'm this is a strong statement, but what we've noticed, and there's a Rebellionaire creator on X called Reigns,
Yes. No rains. Yep. Mhm.
Reigns
Always appreciate his stuff.
with the ES, and it's got and then he's 1220, I
Right.
think. Um, he noticed that from version 12 and 13, it was doubling in capability every month, so that it got 1,000x better with version 13.
Okay.
And I actually noticed that myself.
Okay.
So my commute is 5 miles, and I could not complete my commute successfully. So think of that as a nine, like the big nine before we get to
Right.
the nines after the decimals or whatever. And after version 13, I can go about 5,000 miles at least between critical disengagement, safety critical,
Mhm, mhm.
like where it's definitely going to cause an
Right,
accident.
right,
Um, so to me, like it's 1,000 times better.
right,
So
right.
went from under 5 miles per disengagement to over 5,000 miles.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, and I wouldn't disagree with you. I have only had one critical disengagement that I can remember, and I don't go anywhere every day, but every time I go, it's a few hundred miles.
Hmm.
I've already reported on this channel a couple of times. I just went back and forth from Riverside to Big Sur, which is about 600 miles round trip. I had one. To me, it was a safety disengagement. It might have figured it out before it got into trouble, but
Hmm.
it was definitely a dicey situation. But out of the
Yeah.
600 miles, it was the only thing remotely that was even close.
In
And
the last, what, 6 months?
that was 600 miles on that trip alone.
Hmm.
I've been to LA and back and San Diego and back. So there's another 600 miles. So, or 90, 180, yeah, about 400 miles. So, yeah, I'd say one critical disengagement in 1,000 miles for me in my last three trips.
Hmm.
And moreover,
And
uh,
you're on version 12.
and no, and I'm version 12. I'm on hardware 3.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that's pretty good, I
We
say,
won't talk about Bruno.
about Bruno.
Oh, it's a Disney
Oh,
song.
okay, okay.
We don't talk about Bruno.
Well, now we're suggesting I don't know enough about this. This is where I'm a little bit over my skis in terms of having the conversation, but this new 10x parameter thing, one report today suggested that the fact that they're going to have 10x the parameters is actually somehow going to make it more capable of fitting into a smaller, potentially fitting into to hardware 3.
Mm.
It can do more work. I
Yeah.
can in less space.
So maybe this is the mental math someone did, and I didn't see their post, but maybe they're thinking that means that at least version 13 might be able to
Oh,
somehow fit into hardware 3,
there you
which
go.
would be a big positive. Um, but yeah, what you do with these models is you can shrink them down after you made them.
Hmm. Okay. All right. So you're talking about times when you wouldn't want to have covered calls. Elon said that the shorts better get out of the way. The shorts are going to be obliterated if we get to widely released, or how did he say it? Autonomous at scale.
Autonomy at scale.
Autonomy at
Yeah.
scale. So this would be, I can think of a couple of situations. Autonomy at scale would be maybe a few hundred cars without safety riders, and also without and with inviting the public in. That would be maybe
Hmm.
autonomy at scale. Uh,
Hmm.
Removing, allowing us all to drive unsupervised. I think that would be autonomy at scale.
Hmm.
So do you believe that both of those would be something that the short should be worried about?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
If they're able to get rid of the safety driver, there's really no limit to how big they can go in Texas. Texas is a very large state, and they could easily field if they did, especially if they did customer cars, where customers are responsible for cleaning and charging.
Right.
They could easily do 50,000 if they really wanted to. Now there's going to be a learning curve with the app and matching cars and rides and all that stuff, and figuring out deadhead miles, what these do when they don't have a fare, which
Mhm.
I would say you just drive around a neighborhood, low speed, and just wait for the next fare to pop in, you know.
And in most cities, there's plenty of places to park on the street. Uh,
Hmm.
and I'm sure that the algo can figure that out fairly quickly, where those spots are, and the car can just, head over and sit idly by for a while. I don't think I'm not really terribly worried about some of these people that have worries about the infrastructure. When I look at the number of facilities that Tesla has in every major city,
Yeah.
between charging stations, service locations, showrooms, etc., and there's more. You have all kinds of charging, you have all kinds of parking, you have all kinds of places where cars can be cleaned or maintained. So
Mhm.
I'm not very, very concerned about the infrastructure part of it.
Yeah, you can have lots. You can get lots where near where there's good power hookup and put in the charging infrastructure there. It doesn't have to be something fancy and with the Tesla neon and all that fun stuff.
True,
Like
true,
it
true.
could just be a parking lot somewhere. Um, but like you could also just have customer cars and they can get over themselves a little bit with customer cars.
Sure,
If they
absolutely.
want there to be a logo on the side, you can get magnets just to put on the side of the car or little stickers that come off pretty easy, that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Then you don't need to worry about like charging them at superchargers or in some lot where customers, it's just going to come back to the customer and they're going to charge it in their garage that night.
yeah. No, no, no doubt about it. Well, on another
What,
subject,
Randy,
go
I
ahead.
got to
Yeah.
ask you
Oh,
this.
yeah, more, there's more. Oh, there's more. Okay, go ahead. Yes.
What do you think is going to happen to used car values for hardware 4 if they let hardware 4 just be added to the network?
Well, I've been saying this for a very, very long time. I'm very shocked it hasn't already happened. I'm really shocked that there aren't already people hoarding them.
Mhm.
So it would seem like this would be a situation where you could buy up used cars and put together your own little fleet, and make quite a nice living.
I wonder what's going to happen the end of this quarter. See, might be interesting.
Yeah, so there's going to be this lag time. This theoretical lag time between unsupervised and or you know Tesla's fleet being without safety riders and inviting
Mm,
the public in. There's going to be apparently there's going to be a lag time between the Tesla fleet and the Airbnb fleet, if you will.
right.
And that might even be a year. It sounds like from
Yeah,
talking about.
they
But
hadn't really gotten to that. So
yeah,
in my mind, what that says is that there's a lot of steps they want to get to. So there's just a lot of stuff going on with the app and um, with the logistics, all that stuff, and learn how to deal with various issues. Like, what if a customer spills in the car, but the cabin camera really doesn't see, and they don't report it after they leave?
yeah, yeah. Especially if they
Maybe you can't do anything, but
especially if they spell milk or yogurt. I've had experience with that with one of my children.
you
We
couldn't find it in the car.
we couldn't we didn't find it. It was in the trunk actually, and it was pretty soon it started to get really ripe. And there's almost nothing like ripe yogurt to change your day
In the California sun.
in the California sun. Absolutely. All right. Another subject is energy. I'm going to throw this out at you. You may or may not have been seeing these articles in the last 2 days, but it's been quite interesting. The President of the United States announced that they are going to have a competition between, I think it's 11, it might be 12 different firms to see if at least three of them between now and next summer can put up some kind of fission nuclear facility operational by the middle of next year. And I guess there's 11 or 12 companies in the country that either make the regular, kind of nuclear facility or that are doing the
The
SMR.
SMR, the
Yeah.
small modular reactors.
It would seem like the SMRs would have the best shot compared to a stand, something that a standalone facility. But
Mhm.
all apparently many of these companies have already agreed to the challenge. And I thought we were looking at 2028 before any of them were going to be ready. But now we're talking about potential middle of 2026. The other piece of news,
So that would be huge.
right,
And the reason is like I know there's some nuclear reactors that go on subs, so it's
right.
not like we can't do this, but you have nearly a dozen or more of these uh, SMR nuclear reactor companies that have gone public. They've IPO'd or whatever. Some that are still private, but they don't have uh,
Unit, yes.
a working unit. So, you need to be able to make it so it's economical to refuel it. It's pretty easy to refuel it. Um, and you're able to add fuel to nuclear sub.
Mhm.
I know that's a thing. I've talked
100%
to people who've been there when
done
they've
it.
added it or whatever or needed to transport it.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah. So that would seemingly change much. I mean, we know that China is producing SMRs in
Mhm.
quantity now. So it's not like it's impossible. And the other thing that came out yesterday was that there's one company in the United States, a real company, who is planning, they believe that they are going to go out of the lab and into real production with fusion in 2028.
Mhm.
There's a second company that says that they'll definitely be doing it by the early 2030s. But this, to me, is, and I try to pay close attention. These are the first two companies I've heard that have said that they actually could do fusion in a commercial way.
Mhm.
And but one in 2028, that's pretty fast. So this would also change everything, right?
Yeah, that would be a really big deal if that was solved. I know I've chatted with people who've tried to solve nuclear fusion or been involved in it, and it's very complicated uh, what they're what they're trying to do. Like they've studied all these different ways, timing, angles, stuff like that. Like they're trying to put all the atoms together.
Right.
But like they're just trying to figure out like how to make them chain react or react in a certain way, and it's very difficult. So if a firm really feels like they have a path forward, I hope they figure it out. That'd be pretty cool.
So then we take a look at the entire energy picture. So Elon, a few years ago, he's like, okay, if you have a shortage and you make people aware of it,
Hmm.
and they think there's money to be made, that you will get an abundant response.
Hmm.
So all anybody's been talking about for the last year, and and even more the last 6 months since Trump's been in office, is the energy shortage. And now all of a sudden you have fission and fusion
Hmm.
both potentially coming to the rescue. What does that mean for the
So there's something else there's a big
oh
surplus of
yeah of
uh, lithium.
lithium? Yes, I know, which was
They
in short
literally had
supply.
the government right now in China is forcing some lithium miners in China not to produce.
Right. Because all of a sudden lithium that was in short supply is now in oversupply.
Hmm.
So I'm sorry. Thank you for adding that to my story because
Yeah.
that's the second half of the
Because
story.
Elon said there's a shortage.
Right.
So
So
if people know about it,
so do we end up oversupplying electricity, or is
uh,
that impossible?
well, I wouldn't call it impossible. Um, all these grid things get studied as power producers come on, or there's new consumers of power like factories and data centers. There's these grid connect studies, and you have the interconnect queue. Um, so I don't think you've have it happen and like they wouldn't be aware of it. But I think the various power markets could change. There's regional power markets in the US.
So I would think that the mini nukes and any kind of fusion would probably be set up right next to the data centers, just like they're doing
Mm.
with the some of the gas and whatnot. So
There is an old one in New York, a 3 Mile Island may have been brought back online for either crypto mining or a data center.
yes. Well, you brought up crypto mining, so I'll no, wait a minute. Let's come back to the energy thing for a minute. So for those of us that are Tesla lovers,
Hmm.
this brings up the whole question of the Megapacks. And my understanding, and again, I'm probably over my out of my pay grade here, but my understanding is that at least with fission, you still need the Megapacks in order to load balance. Do you have any idea whether with fusion you'll need Megapacks to load balance
When you say load balance, you mean the
at the
the
data centers?
frequency?
At the data centers, yeah.
Oh, okay, at the data center. Um, so I'm invested in a company called Bloom Energy, and I'm not saying they're a competitor to the Megapack, because they're just getting started. But they've added ultra capacitors to their product. So they have a product that's a natural gas fuel cell.
Mhm,
So it's not a gas turbine.
mhm.
It's a fuel cell, and they've added that ultra capacitor to help with that issue. So you don't. Uh, so what we discovered with that is Megapack is not it isn't a mandate to have. You could probably also pair a ultra capacitor with a natural gas turbine as
Right,
well.
right. Okay, so there's alternatives to a mega pack. The mega pack might have other benefits, but you don't
Mm.
necessarily need to spend $1 million to get what you could get just with an ultra capacitor.
Yeah, I think Elon at Colossus has over 100 megapacks, might be over 200.
Right.
But 100 would be at least $80 million.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yes, right, yes. And
But if you're
capacitors.
making ultra capacitors, now it's probably got to be a good time as well.
Okay, so got to find some ultra capacitor companies to invest in, eh?
Tesla bought one of them back in 2019, Maxwell.
Oh, that's right.
So
That's
that's
right.
where they got the dry battery electrode from.
So before we get into the general stock market story, is there anything else about Tesla today that I might have missed that we should be talking about?
I don't think so.
Okay. So I've been saying all week, maybe actually for 3 weeks, that S&P is stretched. It's at 22x. I just read an article that says that if you take out the Magnificent Four, the top four in the S&P, even the rest of the S&P is a 22, has a PE of 22. And
Hmm.
so the headline on that particular article was the Magnificent Seven are not stretched, but the rest of the S&P is. So it's these companies that are the high flyers, the earnings justify the 33s and 30s, whereas the rest of the S&Ps average of around 22 PE is not justified by their earnings.
Hmm.
Do you think that we have to have some kind of a pullback, a 5 or a 10% pullback at some point along the line? Tom Lee says we're going to 6,600 by the end of the month. I noticed he modified that today on CNBC. He said 65 to 66. So he took a little bit off on that one. But by the end of August, he's not talking about any kind of pullback at all.
And you're talking about the S&P
S&P
500.
500, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. So the question is the market overvalued? So I do think there could be a pullback, but not because of being overvalued.
Oh, okay.
Um, I would agree the lower go growth companies are overvalued.
Okay.
So these companies typically might grow a little better than the rate of inflation. So maybe they're growing like 5, 6, 7%. It's like owning a bond when you own a company like that,
Yeah.
and probably pays a dividend.
Right.
Um, but then you look at these other growth companies, I think a lot of their valuation is warranted.
Yeah.
Um, Go
So
ahead.
you're happy to pay 33x on Nvidia, for instance.
It depend on the company, but we are long NVIDIA stock for our clients, and um, so we think it's attractive for where we think the stock could be.
Okay. All right. We have big news potentially in the next couple of days. We have the President of the United States going to Alaska. And then just announced before we came on air is that there's a second meeting now. So the first meeting will just be the president and Mr. Putin and maybe Besant. I'm not sure, but there's a couple somebody else from anyway. The first meeting though is Putin and the US only, but now there's a second meeting that will include Zelensky and maybe some of the European members of NATO in the meeting.
Mhm.
So that sounds like we're going to hear there's going to be some serious conversations this weekend. If the negotiations turn out well, if we get a ceasefire and the beginning of actual serious peace talks, what happens to the market?
That would be um, so a ceasefire. I think people wouldn't believe it at first. So there's been a few ceasefires during the war already, and Russia has broken all of them. Um, I think there's been some where um, Ukraine has had ceasefires, but um, I think they'd be skeptical at first, but I do think it would be positive as time went on.
Okay. All right. Yeah, well, generally speaking, we'd think that. I was wondering whether all of the
I,
conversation.
I'm just a little skeptical. So I do think it's good that Europe would be attending. They don't want to be left out of the talks. They don't want the US involved in talks. They want to be them, Ukraine, and Russia. They don't want the US involved. Um, there's parts of Europe that seem to want this war to keep going on. So they may just be against some kind of peace deal.
Yeah.
I don't understand it, but it seems like that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So that could be true. There, of course, there are people in Europe that think that Zelensky should be able, or that Ukraine
And
should be.
and the reason I'm making this claim is they're against Trump brokering a peace.
Yeah. And they also think that Ukraine should be in NATO.
Right. That may happen after the war anyway. So,
Oh,
yeah, uh, I know that's a touchy subject, but they kind of need to have protection after the war is over.
okay. All right. Yeah. So that's so the final way that this all turns out is relevant to me as an individual, but in terms of an investor, in terms of looking at markets, the
Mhm.
biggest thing I think would be that the war would stop and that actual peace and stop really,
Yeah.
and that actual peace negotiations would be entered into that have some evidence that they are possibly going to get to a resolution.
Hmm.
And one would look at that as a positive, I think,
Yeah, I think that would be a positive for sure.
except maybe for
Like
the
a piece that lasts more than a few days, lasted a week. Yeah.
it might hurt some of the defense contractors, but
Well, maybe deals have already been made for them to make, weapons over many years from now. So it's not
in order to
uh,
build up Europe.
there's there's contracts already in place. I don't think they'll be hurt if the war ends.
Yeah, I guess we have to resupply the U.S. Um, ammunition, etc.
Yeah.
We need to get modernized with drones and things like that, and robots, I suppose. And then Europe has got to increase from 2 to 5%, and they got nobody over in Europe to make the product. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that
I'm guessing the US is working on drones. So like there's a lot of criticism that we're not hearing about them working on drones, but um why would they tell anyone if they're working on that capability? Um so they're going to look like they're not to throw off their adversaries.
well, we know that Lucky's working on drones, so we know that at least
Palmer Lucky.
yeah, yeah, we know that he's working on drones.
Yeah, Randy's not just throwing out a weird name like something crazy. Like there's a technologist that left Facebook that has a company called Andrew L, and they have some of what's called loitering munitions. So these are flying drones that will loiter over a target and then go whack it. They have naval drones as well. Um, and I think they also have a system to shut down other drones. So it's a mobile deployable system to shut down the ability to fly or control them. They would just fall to the sky or from the sky.
I think they also have a jet, so your wingman. So you have the main jet in
Oh
in
yeah.
action. So you have the
That,
main
that
jet,
was a yeah, that was a cool video they had showing the having a couple like jet rockets as a wingman,
right?
uh, like a couple drones on each side. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. So you only need one pilot out of 5 planes. So that would be
Mhm.
much. They talk about how much less expensive it is to train. In other words, the big deal is losing the pilot, not losing the plane.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Pilots are at least a 4 year, but if not a 10-year process to train.
right. And of course, we don't want to lose the life, but if we
Mhm.
talk about it in terms of
Yeah.
warfare, we have to think of it in terms of the expense,
Mhm.
not so much in terms of the life. All right. Well, what else do you think about the market right now? That's all I got for the, well, there was the whole business of the CPI, PPI, and the tariffs, but I know sometimes you're not that interested in that.
I'll talk about the PPI. So
Okay, go ahead.
the
All right.
PPI came in really bad.
That's the headline. Yeah.
Yeah, the headline numbers were really bad. So um, the market sold off pretty hard this morning to start, especially in names where the earnings is a little more shaky. But they came back, but there was a little more battle throughout the day. Um, so why was the headline numbers, uh, why'd they throw us off, Randy?
Well, they threw us off because when people looked into the numbers, as of course I do every morning when they come out, and you look into them deeply, all of a sudden you found out that this was nothing to do with tariffs. It was nothing to maybe slightly to do with tariffs, but really nothing to do with tariffs. It was really having to do with financial instruments, and the expense of managing financial instruments went up massively.
Well,
And then a few dry fruits and vegetables went up 38% in 1 month. 30. And you're like, how does fruits and vegetables go
is
up?
that raisins or what? Dried fruits and vegetables?
Dry fruit, I think it means dry, maybe like
No
wheat.
water added?
I don't know water. I'm not sure. I didn't look up the definition. But I did ask Grok. I said, well, what the heck? Why did these things go up 38%? And he says, well, of course, I called Grok a he.
Mm.
Grok says, well, basically, because it was so low, it had really been beaten down. In
Mm.
fact, it had dropped 25% in, I think, January. So this was more or less getting back to normal.
Mm.
So between that particular massive, and that was 40% of the goods side. And the financial thing jumping, I forget what it was. It was again huge, like 23% or something.
Hmm.
That was about, I think maybe 25 or 33, I think a third of the services side. When you take those two out, you got a pretty normal PPI.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. So that's good news. That's probably why the market chilled out a bit.
Yes.
They panicked at the headline and then they read the rest of the report.
Yes, exactly. I see this very frequently because, since I do the after the bell reporting in the morning, that's my whole job is to not just do the headline. And anybody that watches that show, if they watch the show, they're going to find out earlier than anybody else that the headline is a mess, which
Mhm.
gives them a information arbitrage in order to be able to make a move if they choose to before the rest of the street gets it. So that's one of my main jobs. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. I have another question for you. I just realized because I was thinking about you earlier today. AI, we talked about it.
That's cute.
We we talked about this about, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, about you using AI as a way
Right.
of trade. And I
Mhm.
read a very lengthy article today.
I'm looking into that. Yeah.
Okay. I read a very lengthy article today that talked about this very thing. And apparently, uh, if you don't, you'll really be you'll really be behind the eight ball.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how you're looking at it?
Yeah, we're researching to see if we can use AI to be predictive in financial markets. But we're also using AI to look at past data just by itself to see, okay, what worked or didn't historically. So one of the things I did in the past, I looked at all the Tesla stock options data
Mm,
for its history. And then I studied, okay, if you did cover calls like this or like that or like this or that, um, then what would that have meant, over a long period of time?
right.
So we're able to find the levels that you would prefer to do them at. And we have a video about this called Tesla cover calls on our Rebellionaire channel,
Okay.
where we talk about how they turned out in 2020. So you think cover calls do terrible all the time, but if you use a margin of safety with your cover call and weren't super aggressive about it, um, you could have added to shares over 2020, which surprised me when I looked at the data because the stock was up
Yeah. Yeah.
730% or an 8.3x.
Right. And still you could have done well with covered calls.
Yeah, provided you didn't get too greedy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we use that to inform what we're doing now with cover calls because we do fear things like a FSD license or FSD Austin unsupervised,
Right.
or,
Right.
something like that. We think those, could be big weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. And the article was suggesting that eventually, or not eventually, but maybe even soon, that information arbitrage, at least with regard to understanding fundamentals of companies, could go away completely.
Right. If you had an AI read all these earnings reports and look at the presentations, I think it could figure out some good things, but I think where most of the money made on Wall Street and many of us experienced this was looking at Tesla and you see, okay, well, they're not making money. But they're building this factory in Shanghai and Sandy Monroe just said they have 30% margin there, or that would be his estimate. Um, and China loves EVs and they love luxury vehicles. So you could guess how well that factory is going to do. And I'm not sure AI if it would like fully connect those dots.
So the difference between information arbitrage, which would be backward looking, be historic,
Right.
and maybe able to make some predictions based on historic trends. The
Hmm.
difference between that and being able to imagine a future,
Yeah.
and put some kind of a optionality on that future that might,
Mhm.
at least for now, be beyond AI's capability.
Yeah, it you can have Grok or Chat GPT imagine, what the Megapack growth might be or things about Tesla's business, but it's I and maybe this needs to be studied in a concrete
Yeah,
way
yeah,
or
yeah,
measured,
yeah.
but I see in general when it is doing this, it's imagining a rosy future,
Oh, yeah.
regardless of what company you look at.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, could you tell it not to?
Oh, so you can ask it to like steelman your argument or like take the devil's advocate, argue against what you're saying.
Right. You could do a good,
Um,
better, best comparison.
yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, so you could do some things like that I think are helpful on the investment analysis side, but to be able to do it automatically, um, yeah, I'd say you want some kind of you'd want to have that. If someone else is going to develop it, you
You'd want
probably
to have
need to
it.
have it too.
Right. Yeah, sounds right to me. All right. Well, I'll ask the question again. Is there anything that we've missed today that you're just you're waiting, you can't wait to get off your chest?
So yeah, my good news is I'm using agentic AI now
Oh,
on my own laptop.
okay.
You don't even need like a supercomputer for it. So there's something called Claude Code.
Claude Code.
Yeah, and it does something that's a little scary. It can modify files on your computer. So that sounds scary, right? But if you worked with AI, like you give it prompts, it'll give you responses, and sometimes you want to keep those responses or do work with the responses.
Right.
And what agentic AI does is it can automatically create files for you, or it's saving responses or some kind of derivative of them, and it can edit those files and save them again, or move the files or delete them. So there's a permissions thing where you approve this
Hmm.
and you can edit those permissions. So I'm excited about it. I'm using it right now, not to program. I'm using it as like a someone to help me stay focused on my priorities and be driving my energy toward my priorities.
I see.
Um, and also I'm giving it my context so it knows what's important to me and what my priorities are. So it'll work through these checklists in interacting with me. So I have these. I'll need to check in with it today and tell it about my day and but I'm giving it more context as I go, like context around um uh family or
I was
faith,
I was going
things
to
like
say,
that.
yeah, yeah, I was going to say you have to make sure now your password is even more important than it's ever been, because otherwise your family members, like your wife or such, could get in and change your priorities.
That's right.
They might have a they might have a different idea.
Yeah. So that they're high on the list.
They're
So
high on the, that's good. I'm glad. I'm so
yeah.
glad to hear it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is exciting. That's very exciting. For those of you who haven't figured it out at the beginning of the show, Bradford Ferguson owns a company called Rebellionaires. You're one of the owners of, I
Mhm.
guess, of Rebellionaire, And if you have any inclination to have him manage your 30,000 Tesla shares, give him a call.
Yeah.
Or look him up under rebellionaire.com.
Yeah, you go to rebellionaire.com and fill out our contact us thing, and we can get you scheduled for a call if it makes sense.
That's right. All right.
There isn't, there's not a 30,000 share minimum.
Minimum. Well, I think
But we do work with people who have a million in Tesla generally.
$1 billion. Yes, right.
Yeah.
Yes. But I talked to you earlier and you said you might make a few exceptions if they were moving in that direction.
They're close, yeah.
They're close. Okay. All right. So I know it's been 3 weeks since you've been on the show because first you and then me and whatever. So I don't know if you still know how to get us out of this place.
Yeah, Randy, take us right to the numbers. Let's get get those numbers.
All right, we'll do that. Here we go. All right, we have got Tesla during the day was down at the end of the day only a full percentage point. And in the after hours has gone down another 0.23. So given the nature of the day, Tesla did pretty well. The Dow Jones and the NASDAQ and the S&P, all three ended, I'm just going to call it as Bradford would, unch. All three were up or down just a tad, but basically unchanged for the day. Now we'll look at where they are in a minute at this point. We have got the Magnificent Seven all finishing in the green, except for Tesla barely down and Apple also down just a tad. And the Cathie Woods, on the other hand, were all down as the bonds did pop back up during the regular trading time. So let's go ahead and take a look at those bonds. We had the 10-year is down a little bit in the pre-market after being up, unfortunately, about 4 basis points during the day. It's come down 0.4 in the pre-market, sitting at 4.289. Let's call it 4.9. I'm sorry, 4.29. So that's good. That's all that it went up. That's a solid. It could have been worse. Could have been worse today. We have got oil sitting at 63.85, basically unchanged in the pre-market. Natural gas up another 0.14, but way under $3 now at 284. We've got gold also very close to unchanged, only down $1.40 at 33.81. Silver down 0.06 at 38.04, which is still only $1.50 under its all-time high. And copper, $4.49, as we talk about. 4.50 seems to be its new kind of, well, in fact, that's what it was before all the tariff stuff happened, and now it's kind of back to that same location. The dollar's higher today. Bitcoin dropped like a rock today. 4,065 at this point down, 118,481 after crossing at some point. I think they got to 124. So it's really 6,000 off of its new all-time high. And what is happening with the pre-market on the equities? Well, the Dow is going back to being the leader here, up 0.36, with the S&P up only 0.02 and NASDAQ down 0.15. So after our fall de-roll today with the PPI, we have got the Dow, the rotation into the Dow seeming to be back in play. The other news today was that the number, what do you want to call it? The employment numbers this morning were fine. They were, very good. Nobody paid any attention to the employment numbers because why? Well, because the PPI thing was such a scary moment. It was a scary moment, but it turned out not to be such a big deal. By the way, you can read dozens of articles right now. Go out and read them. They're still, I can't do Wall Street Journal, just read one before we came on right now, and they were still talking about, oh yeah, the tariffs and blah, blah. No, I'm sorry. The tariffs were not in the numbers on the PPI. Yes, they were there, but it was a fractional part of the issue this morning. I promise you that that's true. Okay, let's see. Do I have anything else to tell you? Oh yeah, later on tonight, it will be more yeah. CERN Basher. It'd be a great show, phenomenal show. I shouldn't tell you this in advance. There's something very special about this show. I won't tell you what it's going to be. It's very unique. It's different than I think any other show we've ever done. And that'll be on about 7:45. And then tomorrow you are going to get for sure Brian Wong at least once, probably just once tomorrow, and then maybe once over the weekend. We will probably have Phil Beisel tomorrow night at 7:45. And then plenty of stuff for the weekend. So I hope you look forward to that. And then what I will point you to from last night, at this point, I will point you now to CERN Basher, even though the time that I spent with Larry Goldberg was certainly very, very illuminating. And if you want to go back and check that out, do it. But it is 24 hours later, and the stuff we do tends to become old news, whereas the CERN Basher information was as fresh as tonight as it was last night. So I'll put that card right there. That's all I got for you tonight. It's been great talking to you.